The night two lonely souls found each other. What if the most important moment of your life happened at midnight, when the whole world was asleep? What if love didn't arrive with fireworks or grand declarations, but with a quiet voice, a warm cup of coffee, and two hearts that had forgotten what it felt like to be seen? This is not just a love story. This is a story about promises made under moonlight, about distance that tests the soul, about what happens when love is real, but life gets in the way. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, something inside you is going to change. I promise you that. Her name was Elena. She was a freelance writer, the kind of person who could paint entire worlds with words, yet struggled to describe her own loneliness. Every night, when the city fell quiet and the stars came out, she would climb to the rooftop of her apartment building and just breathe. She wrote love stories for a living. But secretly, she didn't believe they were real. His name was Adrian. He was an architect, a man who designed beautiful homes for other people, yet never truly felt at home himself. He had just moved into Elena's building, carrying little more than 2 suitcases and the quiet weight of a life he was quietly starting over. 2 people, 2 wounds, 2 dreams they were afraid to dream alone. And then, 5 minutes before midnight, their worlds collided on a rooftop under a silver sky. The city was wrapped in moonlight the night they first met. Elena stood alone on the rooftop, her notebook closed for the first time in weeks. She wasn't writing. She was just watching the stars, the way she always did when the weight of living felt too heavy for one person to carry. She believed midnight was honest. It was the only hour when the world stopped pretending, when people couldn't hide behind their routines and their busyness. At midnight, everything was still. At midnight, the truth came out. She didn't expect someone else to be there. "I didn't think anyone else came up here," a voice said softly behind her. She turned. He stood a few feet away, tall, calm, with tired eyes that somehow still held warmth. In his hands, he carried 2 cups of coffee, as if he had always planned to share one. "Neither did I," she replied. They stood there for a moment, 2 strangers suspended in the quiet magic of almost midnight, neither knowing what to say next. He offered her the second cup. She took it. That was how it began. No dramatic music. No lightning bolt of recognition. No moment that would look perfect in a movie. Just 2 lonely people, a shared silence, and the soft sound of the city breathing beneath them. Adrian had moved into the building 3 days before. He'd taken the job in this city on impulse, a fresh commission, a fresh start. But despite designing spaces where families lived and loved and grew, he himself had never truly felt like he belonged anywhere. Elena had lived in the building for 2 years. She knew every crack in the ceiling, every neighbor's schedule. But she had never once felt like anyone truly knew her. They talked that first night until the stars began to fade. About small things. About the city. About the strange comfort of being awake when the rest of the world was asleep. And when Elena finally turned to go inside, she said, almost without meaning to, "Same time tomorrow." Adrian smiled. The first real smile he'd worn in months. "Same time tomorrow," he said. And just like that, midnight became their time. But what they didn't know yet, what neither of them could have predicted, was that this quiet beginning was about to grow into the most beautiful and the most heartbreaking chapter of their lives. What happens next? What promise did Adrian make under the moonlight that changed everything? And what force would eventually threaten to pull them apart? Keep watching. Keep listening. Because part 2 is where everything begins to shift, and trust me, you don't want to miss a single word. If this story is already touching your heart, hit that like button right now. It means the world to us, and it helps more people find stories like this one. They say you fall in love the way you fall asleep, slowly, and then all at once. For Elena and Adrian, it happened in the space between shared coffees and whispered confessions. In the way he remembered how she took her coffee. In the way she noticed when he was carrying something heavier than words. Midnight became sacred. Every night, without fail, they climbed to that rooftop. They talked about everything and nothing, about Adrian's dream of one day designing a small house by the ocean where the sound of waves could drown out the noise of the world. About Elena's dream of writing a novel so honest it would make people believe in love again. Somewhere in those midnight hours, Without either of them quite realizing it, the loneliness lifted. Microphone hash. The promise. One night, as the clock struck 12, Adrian reached across the space between them and took her hand. Elena's breath caught. "Let's make a promise," he said quietly. His voice was steady, but his eyes were searching hers. "No matter where life takes us, we choose each other. Always." Elena's heart trembled. She had been hurt before. She knew what promises felt like in the hands of someone who didn't mean them, how fragile they could be, how easily they could crack. But looking at Adrian in that moment, in the honest light of midnight, she felt something different. Something she hadn't felt in years. Steady. Real. True. "Forever," she whispered. And under the moonlight, with the city quiet beneath them, they sealed their promise with a look that said more than any words ever could. Microphone hash. The golden season. For a while, life felt exactly like it was supposed to. They built routines together, the kind that feel ordinary until you lose them. Sunday grocery shopping where they argued over the right kind of pasta. Cooking disasters that always ended in takeout and laughter on the kitchen floor. Dancing slowly in the living room to old love songs while the rest of the world rushed past outside. Elena wrote better when Adrian sat beside her, not talking, just present. His quietness gave her room to think. Adrian designed brighter spaces when Elena smiled at him from across the room, as if her warmth reminded him that homes were meant to hold joy. This, they learned, was what love actually looked like. Not grand gestures. Not perfect moments. Just quiet, steady, chosen presence. Microphone hash. The turning point. But life has a way of testing the things we hold most dear. One afternoon, Adrian came home wearing an expression Elena had never seen on him before. He sat across from her at the kitchen table, and for a long moment, he just looked at her, like he was memorizing her face. "I got offered a position," he said carefully. "In another country. It's a significant opportunity, the kind that doesn't come twice." Elena felt the air leave her lungs. "How long?" "At least 3 years." 3 years. The words landed like stones dropped into still water, the ripples spreading outward in slow, unavoidable circles. "We can do long distance," Adrian said quickly. "It's just space between us. It doesn't change what we are, what we have." She nodded. But fear had already started whispering inside her chest, because Elena knew something that Adrian, in his love and hope, was trying not to see. Distance isn't just miles. It's missed dinners. Different time zones. Conversations that grow shorter without either person meaning for them to. Goodnight kisses replaced by goodnight texts that take longer and longer to arrive. Still, they chose hope. Because what else do you do when love is real and life pulls you in opposite directions? Microphone hash. The slow fade. The first months were manageable. They called every night at midnight, just like before. They sent each other photographs of sunsets and empty coffee cups and funny signs on the street. Little ways of saying "I'm thinking of you, I haven't forgotten, the promise still stands." But slowly, quietly, the way seasons change, life grew louder on both ends. Adrian's new position demanded more than he'd expected. Late nights. Early mornings. A world pulling him forward. Elena's writing career, finally, began to rise. Deadlines multiplied. Opportunities arrived. A world pulling her forward too. Deadlines replaced midnight calls. Messages grew shorter. And the silences between them, once comfortable, once safe, began to feel like something else. "I miss you," she would text. "I miss you more," he'd reply. But missing someone and being with them are two entirely different things. And loving someone from a distance requires a kind of daily effort that exhaustion makes almost impossible to sustain. One night, Elena sat alone on the rooftop. It was midnight in her city, early evening in his. She waited, phone in her hands, eyes on the stars they used to look at together. He didn't call. She watched the minutes tick past midnight, then past 1, then past 2. When his message finally arrived, hours later, it was 4 words long. "Sorry. Busy day. Exhausted." She typed a response. Erased it. Typed again. Finally sent. It's okay. Good night. But sitting alone on that rooftop, the same rooftop where everything had begun, Elena knew, with a quiet devastation, that it was not okay. Weeks passed. Then months. Visits were postponed. Calls were rescheduled. And their promise, the one made under moonlight with such certainty, such hope, began to feel less like a living thing and more like a beautiful memory pressed between the pages of a book. And yet, and this was the cruelest part of all, the love didn't disappear. She still loved him when she woke up in the morning. She still loved him when she wrote her stories. She still loved him at midnight, sitting alone, looking at the moon they were no longer looking at together. Love remained. But closeness faded. And the distance between those two things, love and closeness, was slowly becoming a canyon. What happens next? What do you do when love is real, but life has pulled the two of you to opposite ends of the world? What choice do Elena and Adrian make, and what does it cost them? What forever really means? One evening, without warning, without a scheduled time, Adrian called. Elena picked up on the first ring. Because some part of her always kept her phone close, always hoping, always listening for the sound of his voice. "I don't want to lose you," he said. His voice was different now, heavier, rougher, like something in him had been worn smooth by too much time and too many miles. "Then don't," she replied. And she heard the tears in her own voice before she felt them on her cheeks. "It's not that simple," he said. And that was it. That was the truth neither of them had been willing to speak out loud. It wasn't simple. Love, real love, had never been simple. But they had believed that their love was strong enough to hold across any distance, across any silence, across any version of life that tried to get between them. Now, sitting on opposite sides of the world, they were finally being honest about what love alone could not carry. Microphone hash, the truth about love slow, deliberate, every word matters. Love is powerful. There is nothing in this world quite like it, nothing that makes you feel more alive, more seen, more like yourself. But love cannot survive on words alone. It needs presence. It needs effort. It needs time, not grand amounts of time, but steady, ordinary, chosen time. They had the love. But life had been quietly stealing everything else. And a love with no space to live in, however real, however deep, will eventually begin to exist only in memory. Microphone hash, the final midnight call voice drops to something almost reverential. On their third anniversary, the anniversary of the night they first met, 5 minutes before midnight on a quiet rooftop, they made one last call. There was no plan, no agenda, just two people who had loved each other truly, making space for one final honest conversation. "Do you remember the rooftop?" Adrian asked. "Every night," Elena said. A pause. The kind that contains everything unsaid. "I meant it, you know. The forever." "I know you did," she said softly. "I know." The silence that followed wasn't cold. It wasn't angry. It was something rarer and harder. It was honest. "Maybe forever doesn't always mean together," Elena said finally. It hurt to say. It hurt in the way that only true things hurt, the way that a wound finally cleaned will sting before it heals. But it felt real. They didn't fight. They didn't blame. They didn't list all the ways the other had fallen short. Because they both knew, they had both tried, with everything they had. Some love stories aren't meant to last a lifetime. Some are meant to shape you for one. Some are meant to teach you what love can be, so that everything you carry forward is richer, gentler, more aware. "I will always choose you," Adrian said. "I want you to know that. In every version of this story, I choose you." "And I will always be grateful that we chose each other when we did," Elena replied. "For every rooftop night. For every shared coffee. For the promise, even this." They said goodbye at midnight. For the last time. No promise this time. Only gratitude. Microphone hash, epilogue voice lifts, hope returning like morning light. Years passed. Elena finally published her novel. It was about two people who met at midnight and learned that love isn't about possession, it's about growth. That to love someone truly is to want their life to be full, even if your chapter in it is over. The book became one of those rare things, the kind of story that makes strangers on trains cry quietly, that people dog-ear and underline and press into the hands of people they love. At the launch party, someone in the audience asked her, "Do you believe in forever?" Elena smiled, the quiet, knowing smile of someone who has loved and lost and been made larger by both. "I believe love teaches us exactly what we need, at exactly the right time," she said. Sometimes forever is a person. Sometimes it's a lesson. And sometimes, the most powerful forever of all, is the way someone changes you, so that every version of you that comes after carries a piece of them. Miles away, in a country by the ocean, Adrian completed his greatest work, a small, beautiful house perched above the water. On the balcony, he placed 2 chairs facing the moon. He never stopped loving her. But he had learned something that changed him. Love is not proven by holding on at any cost. Sometimes, the truest, most generous thing love can do is let go with grace, with respect, with gratitude for what was real. And every year, on the night they first met, both of them step outside under the open sky and look at the moon at midnight. Not with regret, with warmth. Because their midnight promise didn't fail. It transformed them. If this story moved something in you, if it made you think of someone, or feel something you've been carrying quietly for a long time, then it did exactly what it was supposed to do. Stories like this one exist to remind us, you are not alone in loving deeply. You are not alone in losing. You are not alone in the beautiful, complicated work of learning what love really means. If you felt that, please subscribe to this channel. Because every week, we bring you stories that go beyond entertainment. Stories that remind you of your own humanity. Hit the like button if this story touched your heart. Drop a comment below and tell us, what did this story make you feel? Have you ever loved someone across distance? Have you ever had to let go of someone you still loved? Your words matter here. This is a community built on real emotion, real connection, real stories. And share this with someone who needs to hear it today. You never know whose heart needs this story right now. Life lessons from this story. Before we go, let's carry something forward, because great stories always leave us with truth we can hold on to. 1. Love is powerful, but it needs more than feelings to survive. It needs presence, effort, and chosen time, even when life gets busy. 2. Distance doesn't destroy love, but it can reveal the limits of what love alone can hold. That's not failure. That's honesty. 3. Not every forever means a lifetime together. Some people are meant to shape your heart, not stay in it. And that shape they leave? It's a gift. 4. Letting go with grace is one of the hardest and most loving things a human being can do. It is not weakness. It is a quiet, extraordinary kind of strength. And 5. The most important lesson of all. The right love will not only make you happy in the moment, it will make you better for every moment that comes after. Thank you for listening. Thank you for feeling. We'll see you at midnight. Crescent moon.